Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be focusing on something that's really picking up speed, the future of the automotive industry.
It really is fascinating to see how technology is just revolutionizing everything. I mean, from how these cars are made to how we actually drive them, even how we buy them these days, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. So we're going to explore all of that today. Like, remember going to a dealership, spending the whole day there just to try and haggle on the price?
Oh, yeah, I remember those days. Feels like forever ago.
I know, right? Well, now you can pretty much buy a car from your couch. It's crazy.
It is, it is. Online platforms are changing the game. Makes the process so much smoother. You can research, compare different models, all that good stuff without even leaving your house. And, I think this just speaks to the bigger picture, right? Like, people are just so much more comfortable with buying big things online now.
That's true. But I guess when you're buying something as big as a car, trust has got to be a huge factor. Like, how do you know these online platforms are secure? Are they really reliable?
Well, that's where technology like blockchain comes in. And I know that might sound a little out there, but blockchain is being used in ways that are changing how we think about trust and transparency.
Blockchain in cars. How does that even work?
It all boils down to basically blockchain's ability to make records that can't be messed with. So you're creating a history that everyone can see and that can't be faked. And that's huge for things like knowing where the parts for your car came from, or even verifying the history of a used car, making sure it hasn't been in some big accident they're trying to hide.
So blockchain could help prevent people from getting scammed when they're buying a used car.
Exactly. It brings this whole new level of transparency to the industry.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that feels straight out of a sci-fi movie. 3D printing.
Mhm.
I know it's being used a lot for making prototypes, but how else is it impacting the car world?
Well, 3D printing is actually doing way more than just prototyping now. Like, they're actually using it to create custom parts right when they're needed. And I'm not just talking about little things. We're talking entire car frames being printed out.
Whoa, hold on. So you mean to tell me that one day we might be downloading car designs and just printing them out at home in our garages?
I mean, that might be a little ways off, but yeah, 3D printing is changing the game big time. You can make such intricate designs, use really lightweight materials, and even these really cool composites that we couldn't use before. The cars are ending up lighter, stronger, and way more fuel efficient.
Okay, that is seriously impressive.
Yeah.
And, speaking of fuel efficiency, we can't forget about the rise of electric vehicles or
Yeah.
EVs. I mean, they're everywhere now.
Right.
But are we really at that turning point? What about all the challenges, like how far you can drive on one charge and, finding places to charge them?
Yeah, those are definitely still things people are worried about. But the cool thing is that innovation is finding solutions. Like, we're seeing companies developing these charging grids that run on renewable energy, and governments are offering all kinds of incentives to help people afford EVs. Actually, India has a really ambitious goal. They want 30% of all the cars on their roads to be electric by 2030.
30%. Wow. It sounds like electric cars are really picking up speed. But what about the actual driving experience? I mean, how is technology changing how we interact with our cars?
Well, one of the biggest changes in that area is AS, advanced driver assistance systems. These systems are becoming more and more advanced with features like lane departure warnings, automatic emergency braking, and adaptive cruise control. Basically, you've got a co-pilot in the car with you all the time, keeping you safe.
That sounds pretty awesome, like having a second set of eyes. But what about taking it even further? Are we really going to see cars driving themselves?
Self-driving cars are actually becoming a reality. They're no longer just a fantasy from science fiction. With all the advancements in artificial intelligence and computer vision, these cars are actually able to navigate on their own. There are already trials happening in a bunch of cities, and I think the potential benefits are huge, especially when it comes to safety.
I got to admit, the thought of just kicking back and letting the car take over the driving is pretty appealing. But, how safe is it really? And how do these systems even work?
Well, picture this. Self-driving cars have all these sensors that are constantly scanning their surroundings. They can actually see things in ways that humans can't. And then they use artificial intelligence to process all that information and make decisions, and then they use all that to drive safely, even in really complex environments.
Wow, that's crazy. It's like they've got this extra sense.
Yeah.
But with all that data they're collecting, it makes you wonder about privacy, and what about security? Could someone hack into these self-driving systems?
Oh, absolutely. Those are really important concerns, and the industry is taking them very seriously. Cybersecurity is a top priority. They're putting all these measures in place to protect these cars from unauthorized access. They don't want anyone getting in and messing things up.
Okay, that's reassuring. I wouldn't want my car to suddenly decide to take me on a joyride without my permission. But speaking of interacting with our cars, how are human-machine interfaces changing the driving experience? Like, what's new and cool in that area?
Well, human-machine interfaces, or HMIs as they're called, are all about making things more intuitive, more seamless, and more personalized. We're talking voice-activated controls, gesture recognition, and even augmented reality displays that overlay information right onto your windshield. Imagine that. It's like driving in a video game.
Whoa, that's next level. So it's not just about driving anymore. It's almost like conducting an orchestra of technology. That's wild.
Exactly. It's about making the whole experience not only safer, but more enjoyable and more tailored to you. And all of that's getting even more personalized with, believe it or not, big data.
Wait, big data and cars? How does that even fit in?
Well, think about it. Every time you're driving a connected car, it's gathering tons of data about how you drive, what you like, even the condition of the car itself. And all that information can be used to create a driving experience that's perfectly tuned to you, Optimize your routes, let you know when your car needs maintenance, even help design better cars in the future.
So basically, my car is a giant data collector. That's both fascinating and a little creepy at the same time. But hey, if it makes driving better and safer, then I'm all for it.
Right. And all of this leads us to the real star of the show, artificial intelligence. AI is really the engine driving all these advancements, from self-driving cars to making sure your car runs smoothly, even to how cars are made in the factories. It's everywhere.
So it's not just some far-off futuristic thing. AI is actually in the cars we drive today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's impacting everything. I mean, AI is literally transforming the automotive industry, and we're just starting to see what it can do. It's really incredible, all the possibilities. Its ability to learn and adapt is going to make driving safer, more efficient, and more personalized than we ever thought possible.
Wow, this has been an amazing overview of how technology is changing the world of cars.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And we've barely scratched the surface.
There's just so much to talk about. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into all the fascinating innovations in the world of cars. We'll talk about the impact on design, how they're making cars more sustainable, and what this all means for the future of transportation. AI is really connecting all these innovations together, from designing the cars themselves to how we actually use them.
Yeah. So speaking of design, how is tech changing how cars look and work? I mean, I guess it's got to be more than just making them look sleek and shiny, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Tech is pushing car design in some really wild ways. Take aerodynamics, for example. We're seeing these shapes that are designed to cut through the air, which means they're going to use less fuel. It's pretty cool.
So it's all about making them look good and work better at the same time.
Exactly. They're using all these lightweight materials too, like carbon fiber and these fancy alloys to make them lighter and faster. And it's not just the outside either. The inside of these cars is getting a tech makeover too.
Okay, now you're making me want to see these futuristic car interiors. What's going on in there?
Imagine getting in your car and your voice controls everything. Like, you can tell it to set the mood lighting or adjust the temperature to just how you like it. And get this, they're even using augmented reality. So you could have your navigation directions projected right onto your windshield. It'd be like driving in a video game.
That's insane. But with all this fancy tech, are cars going to become super expensive?
I know, that's what everyone worries about, right? And yeah, some of this high-tech stuff does come with a hefty price tag. But the funny thing is, tech might actually make cars cheaper in the long run.
Really? How?
Well, a lot of it comes down to how they're actually making these cars. Things like 3D printing and automation, they streamline the whole process, which means less waste and ultimately lower costs. And that means car companies can offer more cool features at prices that people can actually afford.
That's great news. But, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. With all this talk about new cars and tech, what about the environment? Are car companies doing enough to make things more sustainable?
Oh, for sure. Sustainability is a huge deal, and everyone's pushing the car industry to clean up its act. And the good news is that technology is actually leading the way in developing these eco-friendly solutions.
Like what? What kind of solutions are we talking about?
Well, electric vehicles are obviously a big part of it, but it goes beyond that. There's research into alternative fuels, things like biofuels and hydrogen. Plus, they're starting to use more recycled materials and even designing cars so that they're easier to take apart and recycle when they reach the end of their life.
So it sounds like they're attacking the problem from all angles. That's really encouraging. But with all this change happening so fast, it's kind of overwhelming for the average person trying to buy a car. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to figure out all this new stuff?
Honestly, just be curious. Don't be afraid to really explore all these new technologies and features. Ask questions, do some research, test drive the cars that interest you. The more you know, the better choices you can make. You got to find the car that really fits your needs and your values.
That's really good advice. We've talked a lot about the tech, but at the end of the day, it's people who are going to be driving these cars, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's all about people. And that means designing these cars so that they work for us, not the other way around. The technology should be there to make driving better and easier, not more complicated.
So it's not just about putting as much tech as possible in a car.
Right. It's got to be user-friendly, intuitive, and actually make the driving experience better. You got to think about things like how comfortable it is to use, how easy it is to understand, and even that emotional connection people have with their cars. After all, for a lot of people, their car is like an extension of their personality and their lifestyle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's about finding that balance between technology and what people actually want and need. Now, we've been talking about how technology is changing individual cars, but what about transportation as a whole?
That's where things get really exciting. We're seeing the lines between all the different ways we get around start to blur, and all sorts of new possibilities are opening up.
You can't tell me more. What's this future of transportation going to look like?
Imagine a world where you have self-driving cars that seamlessly connect with public transportation. You could have on-demand transportation that's tailored to exactly what you need. Or picture drone taxis flying over traffic jams, or hyperloop systems that can get you from one city to another in the blink of an eye.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Are you saying all this is actually possible?
I mean, some of it might sound a little crazy right now, but the pace of innovation is incredible. Stuff that used to be pure fantasy is becoming reality,
Yeah.
and who knows what's next?
It's mind-blowing to think about how much things could change. So we're not just talking about like making small improvements to our current systems. We're talking about completely changing how we think about and experience transportation altogether.
Exactly. We're on the verge of a transportation revolution, and it has the potential to change how our cities are designed, how we live our lives, and even impact our planet in a big way.
It's both exhilarating and a little scary to imagine all that change. The future of transportation is definitely going to be a wild ride.
I know, right? It's going to be an amazing journey.
Before we get too carried away with dreams of flying cars and teleportation, let's take a minute to think about all the incredible innovations we've talked about today. We'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into the future of the automotive industry.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the future of the automotive industry. Man, we've covered so much ground today. It's really amazing to see how much is happening, from how cars are being built to these crazy ideas about self-driving cars and transportation systems that seem like they're straight out of a movie.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. And I think what's really striking is that technology is not just changing the cars themselves, but also how we think about transportation on a bigger scale. It's like a whole new way of looking at things.
You know, it's really interesting to me. It's like the line between the car world and the tech world is just totally blurring. Our cars are basically becoming these super connected gadgets, almost like our smartphones on wheels. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cars now have so much computing power. It's incredible. And that opens up so many possibilities. But of course, with all this amazing tech, there are also some things we need to be careful about.
Exactly. Like, on the one hand, it's super cool to think about all these features that can make driving more personalized and convenient and connected. But then you start to wonder, what are the risks? What could go wrong with all this tech in our cars?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is definitely cybersecurity. I mean, as cars become more connected, they also become more vulnerable to hackers and data breaches.
Oh, yeah. That's a scary thought. Who wants their car to get hacked?
I know, right? And the car companies are very aware of that. They're putting a ton of effort into making sure these cars are secure and protected from unauthorized access. But it's a constant battle. As soon as they fix one vulnerability, the hackers are already looking for the next one.
It's like this never-ending game of cat and mouse between the good guys and the bad guys in the digital world.
Exactly. But beyond the security stuff, there's also the whole issue of data privacy. I mean, these cars are collecting so much information about us,
Right.
where we go, how we drive, even our preferences. We need to make sure that data is being handled responsibly.
Data privacy is such a big deal these days in everything we do. And now it's something we got to think about with our cars, too.
Are there any other potential downsides we should be thinking about?
Oh, definitely. One thing that comes to mind is the complexity of these vehicles. As they become more reliant on software and electronics, they can be a lot harder and more expensive to fix.
So, like, the days of tinkering with your car engine in your garage are pretty much over.
Well, not entirely, but it's definitely changing. You need special tools and knowledge to work on these modern cars. That means repairs could cost more and take longer.
That's definitely something to consider. It seems like there's this fine line, We want to take advantage of all the cool stuff technology can do, but we also need to be aware of the potential risks and challenges that come with it. Absolutely. It's about making smart choices, weighing the good and the bad, and really looking at this stuff with a critical eye. Technology should make our lives easier, not create more problems.
That's a great point. Well, we've explored so much today, all these amazing innovations that are shaping the future of the automotive industry. It's clear that we're at a turning point. The future of transportation is exciting, but there's also a lot of uncertainty. Who knows what it'll look like in a few years?
It's a really exciting time to be a part of this. I mean, the way technology and transportation are coming together is creating these incredible opportunities to make our lives better, change how our cities work, and even change how we think about cars.
I totally agree. It's been such a cool journey exploring all this stuff. I hope everyone listening is feeling as inspired and informed as I am. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of the automotive industry. And until next time, safe travels.